It's a pleasure for me to share the things I've learned through the years, and hopefully we can set you on a path of recovery allergies, particularly seasonal allergies. As we begin tonight, I will explain to you about Lori. Those of you that know that I'm an anthropologist, that was my first career. I had a great time working in South America, Central America, enjoying my work as an anthropologist. And when I was teaching at Boston University, though, career took a little bit of a turn because I was having a lot of allergy problems with sinus, congestion, constant headaches. I consistently had to use antihistamine drugs, decongestants. Use the drug Dristan a lot, which actually is a combination drug that actually caused like a terrific burning in the stomach. I wasn't able to do my sports activity because I constantly had headaches, constantly had sinus, and even beyond that, I had chemical sensitivities. My chemical sensitivities were so severe that when I was working in California, I had to wear gas masks down to Los Angeles because I would get such terrific headaches. And I can still remember the difficulty riding on airplanes because in those days, people could smoke on airplanes, and there was a terrific smell of cigarette smoke and exhaust, both of which gave me a very strong headache. So I had chemical sensitivities in conjunction with food sensitivities and in conjunction with some other types of allergies from things that we might inhale. I had the good fortune to meet people who knew about acupuncture, homeopathy, they knew about nutrition, they knew about natural medicine, and they slowly showed me how I could heal myself. And that actually was one of the major reasons I moved from just being an anthropologist to looking at medical anthropology and looking at individual health recovery nutritionists. So it's my pleasure to share with you my personal story. And this discussion tonight is not an academic discussion, but rather it's a discussion of my own personal evolution and how I freed myself from allergies. It's not meant to be medical advice. It's just telling my story. You can learn what you can from it. You're certainly free to try the same program I developed. But in essence, it's what I have learned over these years and what's proved effective for me and for so many of my clients. This was a funny picture. This was in Colombia in the Amazon jungle. And those little monkeys were very interested in the camera. I thought it was really fun. They jumped right up and wanted to look at that camera. So my story, how I recovered from allergy, in simplest terms, I have this triad. Supplements were the first thing I learned. And that's because that's what my friends and my medical colleagues taught me, and they were very effective. And then I started looking at food and diet and how I could alter my food and diet to be much less reactive. And then there was the issue of lifestyle. So many lifestyle factors are important. Food's important, supplements are important. So I'm going to show you my program based on these three different categories because that's how I learned them myself. The first tip that I'm going to give you, and there will be 10 tips today. The first tip is see the big picture. In other words, allergy is a hyperactive response of an overwhelmed immune system. The immune system, in any case of allergy, the immune system is just overworked and undernourished. The immune system cannot tolerate all of the substances we're throwing that are leaking into the blood, that are getting into the blood. And so the immune system becomes a little nervous and jittery. And instead of soaking up that particle of pollen that leaks into the blood, or that particle of undigested protein, or those chemical haptens that come from chemical exposure, instead of soaking those up gently, the white blood cells get very nervous and jittery and produce a whole bunch of harsh chemicals to destroy that particle very, very thoroughly. We don't appreciate that the immune system has a choice. It can soak that particle up gently, and you'd never know anything happened. Like if I'm with someone in the street, there's two people, and one person is getting a big allergic response and the other isn't, They're both breathing the same thing, but it's just that one person's immune system is able to soak that up and neutralize it without any strong attack. So we want to make our immune system relaxed, at ease, well nourished, so it doesn't have to carry on this hyperactive response. When you talk about responses, it's good to remember that there's immediate responses and delayed responses, and the immediate responses happen within a few minutes. And I bet many of you can identify. I'm around cats and shortly I get a headache, or I breathe this particular mold. Very quickly I can see congestion. Those are immediate reactions. And there's delayed reactions that can take up to weeks. So that's the tricky thing. You may say, I don't recognize any triggers, and they can be delayed reactions. And there is a test for delayed reactions, which is called ELISA ACT biotechnology. That's the personal test I use, and I do it every few years to find out what I'm reacting to on a delayed basis. Remember, our immune system is our circulating intelligence. It plays three roles. One, it searches for foreign invaders, and it's constantly watching what has gotten in the blood, what has gotten that shouldn't be there. It can either destroy that invader gently, or it can destroy that invader with strong, harsh chemicals. The strong, harsh chemicals, like the histamines in abundance, cytokines, cause these allergic responses. So the immune system is looking for foreign invaders, but it's got a choice of how it's going to react. Then the immune system also repairs the body. So if you are busy using your immune system to defend from foreign invaders, you have less immune energy to repair the body. And what I'm going to tell you tonight is that allergy is really an issue of repair deficit. The body has not been able to repair itself to keep the protective barriers, whether it's the skin barrier, whether it's the barriers in the nasal passage, whether it's the barriers in the lung, or whether it's the barriers in the intestine. These barriers have become weakened and particles can leak through and get into the blood. The body does not want a lot of things floating around the blood. And so the whole immune system is protect the body to destroy those foreign invaders. But a healthy immune system destroys them without a lot of symptoms of allergy. And the third thing the immune system does is it communicates. It really is like your circulating intelligence. So there's lots of reasons why you want to free up your immune system. This camel illustration I show you just shows you that many, many things can affect our health as a whole, our immunity as a whole. I'm going to tell you a lot of things tonight. You probably can't do all of them, but if you remove enough burdens from this camel's back, you will find that you have symptom relief. And if you don't have symptom relief, say you do 5 or 6 things that I say, and you still don't have symptom relief, then you have to do more things. And just to give you an example, in my case, one thing that made a big difference in my health was certainly using these antioxidant nutrients I'm going to talk about, certainly finding out which foods I were reacting to, both on an immediate and a delayed basis, certainly really upping my whole scheme of minerals, which are so important for detoxification, but also like mercury removal. I had mercury fillings. Every time I chewed on those fillings, I put more mercury vapor in the body. When I had my fillings removed, and I had those mercury fillings replaced, it made a big difference on my immune system. You may have you may well have a situation of heavy metals from mercury or other lead, many different things we're exposed to, mold exposure, toxin. We look at the total load, and certainly if we're around smokers, we know that's a load. If we're in a polluted environment, we know that's a load. If we have a lot of dust in our house, so we're going to think about cleaning up the entire environment, but we maybe can't do everything, and you certainly can't do everything tomorrow, but step by step, if you remove enough burdens, your natural healing capacity will wake up, and you'll be able to heal yourself. You'll be able to find symptom relief. So remember, we're talking about protective barriers, the skin, the lungs, the nostrils. You only get an allergy when those barriers are breached, when the particles leak through, whether it's a pollen or a dust or a mold, when they leak through one of these protective barriers. So we're talking about repair deficit. We're talking about kind of a total overhaul of your nutrition capacity so your body is at its peak to repair itself. The tip number one about seeing the big picture is that we want to reduce inflammation and reduce the burden on the immune system. How do you know if you have inflammation? Wherever there's pain, there's inflammation. And inflammation is repair gone wrong. Chronic inflammation is repair gone wrong. The body is breaking down tissue. It's trying to repair a problem, but it doesn't have what it needs to finish the repair. And of course, we need every single nutrient. We need a clean environment. We need also an alkaline environment that allows all the enzymes, all the proteins to function better. And as I mentioned, there's immediate and delayed responses. You can probably, each of you can measure, tell me things you react to immediately, but know there are also delayed responses that sometimes have to be looked into. The tip number two is, just as we introduce the practical self-help steps, know that antihistamines, know that allergy drugs have considerable long-term effects. I didn't know this many years ago when I was suffering from allergies. I just took the pills because I didn't want to have this congestion and headaches all the time. But now I know that they're very damaging, and I'm really glad that I found a way to naturally repair the body from this tendency to allergy. Just real quickly, antihistamines, they cause, the thing I was most struck by, cognitive impairment. I said, no, I definitely don't need this. Dry mouth, urinary retention, tolerance and dependence. Things like decongestions cause rebound congestion, again, dependence and addiction, high blood pressure, insomnia, dry throat, lots of things you don't want. NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. I've seen people really go into kidney failure because of these things. You want to be careful not using them in high amounts, and really in any amount as far as I'm concerned. Cardiovascular problems, increase the risk of heart attacks, liver damage. There's so many problems with these NSAIDs. And of course, even worse are the steroid medications that I'm going to talk to you about in a second. Even the mucus drying drugs, you may say, well, these are innocuous, but still they have risk on lung infections, can create bronchial spasms, difficulty breathing, and increase the risk of asthma. So you might say it's worthwhile trying to figure out how you can naturally fortify your body and treat these allergies and prevent allergies another way. Steroids, those of you that worked with me know that I'm always taking caution with steroids. 20% of all the osteoporosis in this country is caused by steroid medications. These medications, even if they're inhaled, cause muscle loss, osteoporosis, weight gain, diabetes, and the risk of infection. So you may say, well, it solved the problem just like that, but in the long run, it's going to cause other problems. So these things are fine if you have to use them for an emergency, but you might think about developing another way to deal with these symptoms. The gist of this talk is about tips for seasonal allergies. So now we've got the idea that it's really a big picture about immune competence, and many, many factors are involved. And we don't have to change all of them overnight, but changing some of them can make a big difference. The common spring culprits are things like pollen from plants and grasses, mold in a moist environment. Spring is a time of dampness. It's a time of flowering. We have a lot of pollens and we have a lot of moisture, which means a lot of mold. We're going to talk about the need to actually work to reduce these spring allergies, and food allergies can be a big part of it. If you react to foods, you want to be very careful. And in fact, they now know that if you react to, say, tree pollen or grass pollen, you probably have cross-reactivity with wheat, often with dairy, often with other sorts of foods. There's a thing called cross-reactivities. So you might I would say we're going to suggest everyone go off the foods that are hard to digest and very reactive. So during the spring, go off all gluten products, wheat, dairy, all the wheat products and the rye and the barley, and also spelt, and go off the dairy products because dairy products are very congesting. They're hard to digest. They cause a lot of mucus. We want to do things to reduce mucus, and I'm going to show you some eating tips for that. Chemicals, everything you breathe, touch, or eat goes into the body. If your protective barriers are strong, it can be neutralized before it gets to the blood. If the protective barriers, whether they're in the lungs, whether they're the skin, whether it's the gut barrier, whether it's the nasal passages, if they're not in perfect shape, then some of these particles can leak through. Chemical sensitivity is easy in the sense that you really clean up your environment. You're careful with the products you use around the house. You're careful with your exposure to perfume and scents. Even to this day, dryer tags, I think they should be outlawed. They give me so much problem. Outdoor sprays, clean up your environment of chemicals can really be a big help. The tip number 3 is to think about seasonal allergies as a time for detox. I don't know if any of you remember, but it was very customary in this country in the spring, especially in the South, to deworm the children. I mean, it's the time of year when we detoxify. And so think about detox. Think about cleaning up get the dust out of your house, try to keep your house as dry as possible, try to keep things as simple as possible, purity of food, purity of water, air filters. We're going to talk about all that. Spring is a time when it's damp and cold. It's a perfect time for environmental allergies. And interestingly enough, with global warming, there's now more pollen than ever. And so that is only going to get worse as the growing season gets longer because of this greenhouse effect. So bear down and take care of it this year because it's only going to get worse in the years to come. We want to bring a warm and dry energy into the body, and we want to choose detoxifying warm foods. We're going to talk about that. We're thinking about spring as a window of opportunity to detox, to set a few days aside to do a very simple diet, a lot of cleanliness in your environment, a lot of capacity to detox. And remember that inflammation often leads to excess fluids in the body. These toxins are like coming to surface, wanting to be removed. And one of the things we need to do is strengthen digestion, right? Many of these toxins, much of the inflammation comes from the very fact that we don't digest food well. And what we're talking about is the digestion you could look at like a fire. And you want that furnace to be really strong so you can well digest that food, so you can digest that food thoroughly and not have any undigested particles that are floating around the gut. And those particles then can leak through the gut and get into the bloodstream. Remember, all you want to get into the bloodstream from the gut is these little amino acids, these little proteins, these very small particles. But if larger particles leak through the gut, get into the bloodstream, then the white blood cell is going to attack them, either without our knowing it, because we have the capacity to soak them up like a sponge, or with a strong attack that leads to allergy. A competent immune system will not have an allergic reaction. So I'm going to show you the nutrients. The nutrients were my first tactic. The nutrients are what I was taught in my attempt to find relief from the symptoms. These nutrients, I'm going to show you the 4 or 5 things, are very effective at relieving symptoms. It was only later that I realized that I wanted to do more than just relieve the symptom. I wanted to actually heal my immune system. And I found out that these same nutrients that I was taking to relieve the symptoms healed the immune system. And this is the difference between taking the nutrients to deal with a symptom and taking a medication. The medication is never going to help you regulate and regenerate your immune system, but these selected nutrients will. And I'm going to have a little drink of my vitamin C right now. So the first nutrient and the prime nutrient, one of the 2 major nutrients, is a vitamin C. There's all kinds of vitamin C. You want a potent vitamin C. You want one that has been processed like under a blanket of nitrogen, so that its antioxidant capacity is totally preserved. Antioxidants work by donating electrons. The body actually runs on electrons, and if you have a high quality vitamin C, what we use in a ascorbate powder. In fact, those of you that have worked with me have seen this buffered ascorbate. We call it Alkaline C. It's a vitamin C in the buffered form, which is the form that the body uses. It's attached to certain minerals, a little bit of calcium, a little bit of magnesium, a little zinc, and a little potassium. So it also provides those minerals for best utilization of the ascorbate. The ascorbate is the #1 antioxidant in the body, and it happens to be one of the primary antihistamines. It will reduce the amount of histamine your body produces in response to an allergen. It helps the body adapt to the allergic response and detoxify that allergen. Vitamin C is also a potent antioxidant. It's in our mind, it's the most effective repair agent. Remember, I told you if we had perfect repair, we wouldn't have any allergies. If we repaired our protective barriers and if we kept our immune system well repaired. But we get into repair deficit and then these symptoms arise. So antihistamine, the premier water-soluble antioxidant, and an ascorbate will reduce symptoms like sneezing, runny nose, congestion, watery eyes. When I had these sensitivities, first when people told me, look, you could go from using these antihistamine drugs, which have so many collateral effects, especially if you use them over the long haul, and I was getting very severe stomach pains from those drugs, you can actually use these nutrients like the ascorbate. You need to have a very high quality ascorbate, and you need to have one that's totally corn-free because corn is one of the major antigens. And most of all, you have to have one that's processed in such a way that the electrons are available. An antioxidant is like a molecule that's got all these electrons spinning around it. And those electrons, it donates to the system. Vitamin C is called an electron donor. The higher quality of vitamin C, the more electrons it has to donate, and the work is done by the electrons. So they said to me, do this. And I started using very high dose ascorbate with remarkable results. And the worse our sinuses, the worse our congestion, the worse the inflammation, the more of the ascorbate we have to use. And if we have time, I'll teach you how to calibrate your own vitamin C. But mainly, you take vitamin C to bowel tolerance. And if you've never heard of this, you can search the internet, vitamin C to bowel tolerance. You see, it's a standard technique that functional medicine doctors use to take as much vitamin C as you can use, and you can find out how much you can use by just taking it until you get a loose stool. When you get too much loose stool or you get a watery flush, then you know you have more than you can use, so you cut back. In most cases, 1,000 to 10,000 milligrams a day, which would be, each teaspoon of this has like 3,000 milligrams, has actually a couple thousand milligrams. So you take several half teaspoons a day, and if that doesn't resolve the symptoms, then you increase to a teaspoon a day, several teaspoons a day. Ascorbate is part of the story. Ascorbate is the orange part of the orange. And there's another part of the orange, which is the white part of the orange, and that's flavonoids and flavanols. These are also very, very excellent antihistamines. And in this case, what a quercetin does, and particularly a high quality quercetin, like a quercetin dehydrate, it prevents the immune cells from releasing histamine. Many of the drugs we take are antihistamine. This has a very strong antihistamine effect. At the same time, it serves as an antioxidant and repairs the body. I have to tell you that quercetin is being highly studied by researchers all over the world. If you want to have some fun, you get a Google search and put in quercetin. Every day, you'll see 5 or 6 new studies on quercetin, and that's because it's the most potent plant compound that they've discovered so far for reducing inflammation and for enhancing immunity. And it's being highly studied, I suspect, because researchers are trying to develop a synthetic that they can make a drug of. There's much research all over the world looking at quercetin. And you always want a safe kind of quercetin, a quercetin that's made from plant compounds that are water soluble. This quercetin we use in Repair and Relieve is totally water soluble. I just drop it into my seed here, and you can take it to that. It's a water soluble, and we like a quercetin that's combined with grape and pomegranate. Pomegranate is a great antioxidant studied from the Bible on. It's very effective combination of these polyphenolic compounds that reduce the immune response, reduce histamine. You will see a reduction in symptoms of allergy, like the typical things, runny nose, hives, watery eyes. And in fact, quercetin has been studied to be more effective than the anti-allergy drug cromolyn. There's actually research showing quercetin itself is more effective. Each one of these tablets has 1,000 milligrams. We use, and some use up to 6 a day quercetin, a very effective combination. We call it this combination, the dynamic of vitamin C and quercetin. You might think about it, give it a serious try. There's other nutrients that are extremely important, and I tried to pick out the key nutrients because it's a little overwhelming. Certainly, I hope all of you are on a very high quality multivitamin and mineral, but and on top of that, because you want the B vitamins, you want all of the nutrients, but on top of that, you want special amount of, I found in my case, what was really effective was very high dose buffered ascorbate, quercetin dehydrate in a very safe and bioavailable form, like combined with OPC and pomegranate, like we have in this Repair and Relieve, and magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral. A vast majority of people have too low magnesium. Magnesium is important for 600 different enzymes in the body. In other words, 600 things can go wrong. And amongst those things that can go wrong if you don't have enough magnesium are like a constriction of the bronchial tubes. Magnesium is the relaxing mineral. Like calcium causes the nerves to fire, to contract, magnesium relaxes. Magnesium is a natural antihistamine, a natural muscle relaxer, a bronchial relaxer. It relieves airway constriction in the lungs, and it actually relaxes the entire body. The people I work with, myself, I take magnesium during the day, but I also take some in the evening. Really helps people to rest well, to relax the body, to relax the muscles. And if you've studied bone health with me, you know that I actually use more magnesium than we do calcium. I think it is probably more important to bone health, and the studies show people with higher level of magnesium actually fracture much less or don't fracture at all. And there's some very nice studies. If you're interested in bone health, we offer this Better Bone Solution. It's a 4-day workshop. You can purchase that online as a video, but you can also come join us. We're doing it in May in Kerpalo, this wonderful meditation center in Western Pennsylvania, and we occasionally do it at different centers. So if you're interested in bones, you can get the whole big picture. Magnesium, important for allergies just as well as for bone, and certainly for cardiac health, certainly for so many things. Magnesium is just really essential, and we get way too little of it. So I able to recover from my allergies with high dose buffered ascorbate, quercetin, and adequate magnesium. And that's just a very effective protocol that I use. The other thing is that zinc. Now, you've probably heard about zinc because of COVID. You know, zinc is a very potent immune agent, and it potentiates those white blood cells to be able to do their job. Remember the white blood cells? They're your circulating intelligence. They're the immune system that's running through the body. So you want to keep those guys really happy. And the most interesting thing is zinc works if it's in the cell. And as it turns out, quercetin is what gets zinc into the cell. You might have heard with COVID all this talk about using quercetin with zinc, because zinc will fortify the immune system, but to get into the cell, it needs quercetin. And this is what we call our ZQ Zap, our zinc quercetin zap, which we use if anyone is getting signs of having a cold, having an infection, having an allergic reaction. We do put zinc together with the quercetin, And there's a wonderful form of zinc we've been able to provide, which is 3 different forms of zinc in a lozenge. So those of you that say, I have this wicked sore throat, my throat bothers me a lot, this delivery of zinc, you take it in a lozenge, you dissolve it in your mouth. It's very effective to protect the throat as well. And each tablet has like 15 milligrams. You may do 1 or 2 a day. It's a very effective way to deliver zinc into the cell, particularly if it's done in conjunction with the quercetin, what we call the ZQ Zap. It's one of my favorite, my go-to if I have any sign that I'm getting under the weather or something is brewing within me. So those are the nutrients I like a lot. People often ask us about children's doses. So I've tried to develop some simple children's doses for you. Children, it depends on the age, but they might use, like of the vitamin C, they might use 1/4 of a teaspoon several times a day. There's no harm. I mean, if a child gets a loose stool, then you have to cut back. Older kids, like 5 to 12, maybe 1/2 a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon. And if a kid can take 1/2 a teaspoon or a teaspoon and not getting a loose stool, then certainly add more. Quercetin is neat because you can break the tablet, you can dissolve it in water. Littler kids, you might give them 1/2 a tab, and the bigger kids, like 6, 7 on, you might dissolve 1 tab in water. The zinc, again, is a lozenger. It's really easy for the kids to take it. It's not bad tasting. So we've tried to develop kind of recommendations for children, because that's one of the most, we get asked that all the time. And these are certain safe things, but it's always good to ask your pediatrician. But know that if you start with these substances in low dose and follow the guidelines I suggested, you'll be fine. None of this information, by the way, is meant to replace any of your doctor's suggestions. This is just our experience, my experience, and the experience with my group here. So be sure to check anything out you have a question with your health professionals. Our service is really just educational, and it's my delight to share the experience of how I recovered my health. Each of you can decide what you want to do and how you want to work with your health. So the alkaline diet, those of you that know my work know that we've made the alkaline diet popular worldwide. You can search alkaline diet. Everyone is talking about it, and they're contrasting it to the standard Western diet, which is called SAD, which is quite sad. This diet is a diet high in anti-inflammatory foods. It's essentially a detoxifying anti-inflammatory diet that provides abundant whole food nutrients for repair. Remember, we're talking about repair deficit. We're talking about giving the body everything it needs to repair. So it needs all the nutrients. It needs the antioxidants, it needs the vitamins and minerals, essential fats, but it also needs the chemical environment where all the enzymes function well, where the proteins are produced effectively, where the immune system is most potent, and that's an alkaline environment. We have a whole course on the alkaline diet. You can see it on alkalineforlife.com. That's a good thing to do if you say, gee, I want to make this detox diet. I want to use the spring, a great time to detox, then develop a very simple alkaline diet. It's a diet high in vegetables, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, fruits, herbs and spices. I'm going to show you some of the key herbs and spices to use during this season, and then adequate protein. So you cut out all the wheat, dairy, the artificial foods, the synthetic food, the sugar, the caffeine, the processed food. You just eat simple whole foods, organic if you can get them, with plenty of pure water. We try to drink spring water if we can, at least get a purified water. Just as you clean your house, just as you get rid of the dust and the pollens, and you have your air filters and all these things that are important, you also do a very clean diet. Even if you try this for 3 weeks, you're going to see that your program of reducing allergy is much, much more effective if you clean up your diet and provide all the minerals that you can get from an alkaline diet. Take the trouble, get some pH paper. Either we have these strips, and we also now have these strips, or we have these nice little sticks where you can actually measure your pH the first morning urine. It's a very simple thing. You can see if you have an adequate buffering capacity in the body. And this helps to set the stage for repair. You have to have the physical environment. If you haven't seen my book, The Acid Alkaline Food Guide, sold in many countries around the world, many different languages, very popular book, because people around the world realize that an alkaline environment is the natural environment for the chemistry, and it's the environment where we heal most quickly. So the tip number 6 is develop an alkaline diet. Now the X thing is digestion. You know, we tend to take for granted digestion, where cultures like the cultures of India and Japan, any ancient tradition, China, they pay a lot of attention to what you eat and how you eat, because they know digestion is like the hub of life. And remember, it's these undigested particles that are leaking through the gut that are causing these allergies in many cases. Spring is a time of dampness and coldness. So it's a very good idea during this spring month to consume hot foods, warm drinks, not to take cold things. And certainly not cold things like ice cream, which are cold and the dairy is mucus forming. So that's like the worst of all things. Hot cooked things and teas, warming teas. When we think of warming, we think of like ginger. In fact, here's some of my favorite ginger root to make fresh ginger tea. I have a video on how to make fresh ginger tea. That's of all the hundreds of videos I've made, this is the most popular one, how to make ginger tea, fresh ginger tea. Use it in your food, make ginger tea really excellent. Know that there's really great other herbs like this. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is nettles, stinging nettles. You might have some in your backyard. Stinging nettles is a very great antihistamine, is the queen of all anti-allergy teas. Take a nice big scoop of this, put it in a quart of water overnight or for a few hours, let's say, and then strain it out, warm it up and drink it in the morning. Take hot water, put like a nice bunch of this in, 2 or 3 cups of hot water, and drink that tea during the day. Nettles tea, a very natural, simple way to have a strong antihistamine. In fact, also very good for bone because it has lots of calcium and other minerals. That's stinging nettles. Another herb that can warm you up and correct allergy is tulsi, which is holy basil. This is a little different. It's a little light colored. This is used in Ayurveda a great deal. It's called the queen of all the herbs. This is very effective at rebuilding digestion, reducing allergy, like maybe a cup or 2 of tulsi tea a day. Tulsi is also called holy basil. More common to you might be cinnamon. That's a warming herb, great to increase cinnamon. Turmeric. Turmeric is a very effective, maybe you take a half a quarter of a teaspoon, put it in your water, and you can actually gargle that turmeric water if you're having a throat problem with these allergies. Very good idea. Turmeric, you go out in in a place with a lot of allergies, drink some turmeric, gargle some turmeric before, and that'll help protect the throat. So these simple herbs, turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, tulsi, and nettles, those are excellent teas that both warm the digestion and help reduce the allergic response. When it comes to food, you want to enhance digestion. That's why we have cooked food, hot food. You don't want to make the stomach cook the food. You want to give that stomach cooked food because it's easier to digest and it will help reduce dampness in the body. Bitter foods are very good this time of year, like dandelion. Isn't it interesting? This is a time of year when dandelion greens are out. Dandelion greens are very excellent because they're a bitter food and the bitter taste helps decongest the body. Kale, collards, those leafy greens are very good. And the use of herbal bitters. We're just developing an herbal bitters product, which is really helpful. And you might have bitters of Angostura. Some people put a few drops in water, drink that before a meal. Bitter tasting that help. Dandelion in particular is great. What you want to get is the good things into your system and the bad things out of your system. So we're really going to take a second look. Can I spend a month without sugar, without processed foods, without white flours, without dairy? Can I just have the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, but in a cooked form, lightly steamed? You could do some little salads, but you'll find that you decongest quicker if you warm the body. And if you thin the body, in a sense, the mucus with some of these teas. Sipping hot water is a great way to stimulate metabolism. In fact, sipping hot water during the day is a great way to lose weight also, because it speeds up the metabolism. We don't have to drink a lot of water, but sipping hot water through the day, or sipping Tulsi tea, or sipping dandelion tea, or sipping nettles tea, hot nettles tea, keep it in a thermos, make it hot. That will help remove congestion from the body. The greatest challenge for me personally on this enhancing digestion is to eat slowly, chew the food well, and eat mindfully. You might have noticed I have sort of a speedy quality to me, and it's very hard for me to really quiet down and pay good attention to my eating. However, that will really advance digestion. And when I do it, I feel much better. And I'll tell you a little personal story. I can eat a food, if I eat a food standing up, like I'm running here and there and have my rice and lentils, I can get indigestion from that food. If I eat the same food sitting down in a peaceful way, I won't get indigestion. It's a hard lesson for me to learn because I am often overactive, but settling down, chewing the food carefully, eating mindfully is a very excellent practice to enhance digestion. And a lot of allergy has to do with poor digestion. So then the 8th tip is exercise. You know, it's interesting. For years, I've seen that I don't care if you're looking at diabetes, heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, exercise is always a really important element. And there's hardly a medicine as effective as exercise. And with allergy, we find that exercise really stimulates the anti-allergy forces. It stimulates the lymph flow. You probably know that you have more lymph in your body than you have blood, but that lymph doesn't have a pump. And all of the lymph is circulated through breathing for movement of the muscles. So physical activity leads to stronger lymph flow, stronger blood flow, helps flush out the allergens more quickly from the body, and reduces inflammation caused by the allergen. So exercise is really important. Even the breathing exercises, even simple breathing exercises, but we want to also move the whole physical body, aerobic exercise as much as possible, and even strength training if you feel up to it. The exercise helps to reduce mucus, clear the lungs, and you may find yourself coughing and you may find yourself bringing up mucus. That's all fine. It increases oxygen in the system, and it is associated with an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which, supports exercise, supports the whole anti-inflammatory lifestyle. Now, if you have a problem, if you say, I can't go outside because, right, in my case, there's too many pollens, I have to be inside with my filters on, then know that you can exercise with a treadmill within your house. You can do light yoga, stretching. You can do Tai Chi and Qi Kung. You can do deep breathing exercises of Qi Kung, which are very beautiful because it's through this deep breathing that we can bring energy into the body and stimulate the lymph, even though we aren't doing aerobic exercise. One tip that they give both in the ancient medicine of India and the ancient medicine of China is to walk 100 steps after every meal. In fact, in China, they say 100 steps after every meal, 100 years of life. And that just shows the idea that getting out and walking helps to, in a sense, burn off all those sugars that we've just eaten, helps to get metabolism going. If you can do more than 100 steps, I find 100 steps is just a few minutes. It's a very good idea to walk after every meal, a really wise thing to do, and it will help with the allergy too. The 9th tip is this thing, a couple of really lifestyle things, that exercise is important and breathing exercise can be very important. It's called pranayama in ancient India. And you might notice you can practice some of these breathing exercises. I'm not going to go into them right now, but just deep breathing exercises. Adequate sleep is really, really important. Stress management is really important. And your mindset. People can become allergic just because they're afraid of becoming allergic. I'm not going to go into those details, but So you want to look at things like air filtration. You want pure water. You need to clean your own body. Your clothes should be washed, especially if you have a pollen problem. Wash the clothes frequently, wash the bed covers frequently. Remove your shoes when you come into the house because you can bring pollen and pathogens into the house. Vacuum a lot, wash the sheets and pillows. And of course, if you have pets and you're allergic to pets, that's another burden. So think of how you can keep your environment cleaner. That is a for sure thing. The mold is a really big problem. I don't know how many of you have mold sensitivities, but if you have severe allergies and they're intractable, you check around and make sure you're not reacting to molds. We want a very clean, dry environment. As I mentioned, the spring is a time of a lot of moisture, a lot of dampness. So we want to bring dryness into the environment. Mold can cause many, many problems. Right now, we're looking at cognitive decline in people as they age, and mold sensitivity can be a big problem. So if you are dealing with a moldy environment, try to clean it up as much as possible, get your air filters going, and maybe get some professional help to rid the situation of mold. The some of the really nice lifestyle things that help a lot are nasal lavages. And many of you have heard of the neti pot. It's like a little teapot thing with the spouts where you do a saline solution, a little salt, a little baking soda, and you put it in the nose and it goes down through the sinus. It actually goes through one nostril and out the other. It's a very interesting thing. And you can actually buy spray bottles or you can buy this spray device. If you wash the nasal cavity frequently, maybe even twice a day, you will get much less allergy because you're rinsing away the pollens, the dust, the molds. It's a very wise thing to do. And you can even put a little tad bit of this buffered ascorbate, just a little bit in your neti pot, and that will help also to cleanse that area. Neti pots are very important. Nasal lavages, like I say, they have all kinds of squeeze tubes now, different ways to do it. You want to clean that sinus and you really help prevent infection for sure and clean the nasal passage. I also like, if you have dryness of the nasal passage, I love to use sesame oil. I warm sesame oil, maybe just in my hands, a little organic sesame oil. Put it in the nasal passages before you go out. Put it there in the evening so you keep a nice moist nasal passage and there's not so much irritation going on. Especially during the night, you'll find you feel lots more comfortable when you breathe. The lymphatic drainage is a really important thing, and massage that you yourself can do to massage the sinus, to massage here in the temples is very important, to massage above your eyebrows. You might feel there for a second, do a little massage and you'll notice some tender points. You'll notice trigger points. If you massage these areas, it can really help to remove congestion. Some people use hot packs. Remember, we like warmth. And in this case, maybe a little hot moist pack will help. When I would have terrible sinus and headaches, I would wake up in the middle of the night with a sinus headache because I'd eaten something that I react to. I would start taking the vitamin C a teaspoon at a time, a heaping teaspoon at a time, until I got a watery stool, and I would put hot compresses. And I have to tell you an interesting story. The minute I got that watery stool, the headache went away. It's quite remarkable. The minute I had all the vitamin C I could tolerate, the headache went away. And that's called the vitamin C flush. And this is a way you can decide how much vitamin C you need. You take it every 15 minutes until you get a loose stool, actually a flush. And then you say you've had a colon cleanse. It's only the colon that cleanses. It's not the total intestine. We have written about this. You'll find it on the website on Alkaline for Life. It's a very interesting way to detoxify the body. And in my case, the minute I flushed, that headache would go away. And if any of you decide to do it, let me know how it comes along. It's a very striking thing. It's never failed me at all. But it's the kind of thing you might want to do with some supervision, especially if it's strange to you, like taking a nutrient in high amounts so much that you get loose stool or you actually get a flush. There's a lot been written about it. You could look on the vitamin C calibration. But in the meantime, just increase your vitamin C little by little. If you get too much loose stool, then you know you have to cut back. And if you're interested in trying the calibration, you can look at the article that we have on our website. We have very detailed instructions. The all kinds of breathing exercises help, especially if you breathe through one side of your nose and then you exhale through the other side. You just keep practicing this alternate nostril breathing. You can look it up on the internet. It's very well known form of pranayama. Actually, from ancient India, they have thousands of kinds of breathing exercises because they understand how breath controls the energy and the well-being of the body. The tip number 10 is really that everything we do to regain immune competence is going to help us heal. So this is what I call the Mandela effect. Nothing in this universe stands alone. These allergies that we have are a part of a whole overburdening of the immune system. It's a part of an overburdening of the environment, too many toxins in the environment. If you think about it, everything that I touch, that I breathe, that I eat, gets into my body and it has to be processed. My body has to deal with it. If I breathe a chemical, I still think it's fascinating. Like I can breathe a dryer tag and get a wicked headache. The person next to me can say, oh, this is a lovely perfume. And that's because they have ability to detoxify that chemical that I don't have that ability. And it has to do with liver function. It has to do with antioxidants. Mainly what I find is the major key is antioxidants. That's why I'm so fond of the ascorbate vitamin C and a very special quercetin formula, because these are very powerful antioxidants. And of course, you might say, well, I know inflammation is reduced by the omega-3 fats, which are great. And I know that curcumin helps. So all those things are really good. Do as many of it as you can. Every single part of the body is associated with every other part of the body. So we like to see this as an opportunity, in simple terms, to remove some of the burdens on our immune system and some of the burdens from our environment so the body can function more freely. If you think about it, your body has billions of cells, and every cell is a living being doing thousands of things each second. Now, that's hard to imagine. The intelligence of your body is so refined that billions of cells can do 1,000 things and more every single second. And they all know what every other cell is doing. That's how we can function as one single unit. So I like to have a high dose of appreciation for this body and say, okay, the body is much smarter than I am. And so I'm going to give the body a chance. I'm going to remove as many burdens as I can. I'm going to get the dust out of my house. I'm going to dry up the house. I'm going to have air filters. I'm going to eat very pure food, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And this time of year, I'm going to have hot and cooked food. I'm going to try my ginger tea. I'm going to try some Nettles tea. I'm going to try some gargling with turmeric before I go out to straighten my throat. And I'm going to put a little sesame oil in my nose, in my nostrils. Warm it up in your hands, put it in your nostrils. Maybe massage your face. It's a lovely thing. Maybe massage the sinus. You're going to do everything to clean up your environment and also to nourish immunity. There's many, many, many things you can do. And I am just showing you the things I have done that really helped me recover from allergy. You may find some of these elements are more important than others, but this is the path that I have done. And I'm really happy to say I'm free from allergy. And while I might not like some chemical scents and I stay away from them, I certainly have recovered from these allergies. I have no more headaches, no more sinus, which really plagued me for many, many years. And I know all of you can achieve the same thing. Everyone has a little different situation, but start seeing the temple that your body is. And let's clean this house, just like we're going to clean our environment. If you have a tendency to constipation, you really want to correct that. The vitamin C will help correct that. You want to detoxify the body as much as possible. And you want to keep the body clean. You want to keep your environment clean. And certainly the air. They're kind of, the filters I like are HEPA filters. They're filters that actually can take out mold and smaller particles. So be sure you get a high quality filter if you're having those problems. If you can exercise outside, all the better. Do the movement and deep breathing exercises every day. Take a few minutes. In fact, let's end the session right now. We take a few minutes and we're going to sit. We kind of been racing around here. I've been teaching you a lot. We're going to take a few minutes and do just a few deep breathing exercises. We're going to sit comfortably. This is my favorite thing to do, actually, because as we quiet the mind, as we quiet our breath, we quiet the mind. When we quiet the mind, we can get in touch with that supreme intelligence within us. All we're saying is, let's give the body a chance. Let's remove some of the burdens. Let's give it some more antioxidants. Let's give it the basic nutrients. And if you're not doing a multivitamin, look into a high quality multivitamin like this Energize Multi that we have with 44 nutrients. Some of that will help, along with the quercetin, the vitamin C, the zinc, and the magnesium. Those are all extras we use in very high doses. But let's just take a couple deep breaths. So we always sit comfortably, and let's just breathe in and imagine that our immune system is listening to us, and imagine that we're saying, I thank you, my amazing immune system, for tirelessly surveilling for foreign invaders. I thank you for how you've protected me all these years. And now I'm going to take a little better care that on the one hand, I nourish you more with these antioxidants. And on the other hand, I reduce some of the burdens on you. And in fact, I bow down in appreciation to my immense circulating intelligence that the immune system, and as I breathe in energy to invigorate the immune system. And as I exhale, I let go of any unwanted worry or stress or thoughts that weaken the immune system. Our very thoughts are metabolized by the body. And so we want to pay attention to uplifting thoughts. We want to have gratitude, and it starts right out with gratitude for this body, particularly gratitude for our great intelligence that is our body and is manifested in the immune system. So just a couple deep breaths. A deep breath of gratitude. We breathe into the count of 4. We maybe hold it for 4 counts, and then we exhale, maybe to the count of 5 or 6. We breathe in to the count of 4. We hold it for a few seconds, and we take a nice long exhalation. All the time, maybe giving a little prayer of gratitude to our amazing body and to our wondrous immune system, and asking this immune system once more to help us out through this season of allergy. The whole body is a feeling, thinking being, and gratitude is the basis for expansion. And I give gratitude for each of you for joining us. I hope that you will try some of my suggestions. Let us know how you're doing. I certainly have been able to recover from allergy. If you have another path that works great for you, let us know. We have many community forums. I'm frequently on Facebook and YouTube and everything else under the sun that you can find us if you look up. Let us know how you're doing. Know that within you is the capacity to be free of these allergies. I did it. You can do it. I give you my best hope and my blessings, and I hope that you all do extremely well this allergy season. Let us know how you're going, and have a very great evening. It's been my pleasure.